People often ask me after an episode about horror, manipulation, or why we enjoy watching things that make us afraid. Mike, why does politics feel like a horror movie now? Not why are elections interesting, but why do politics today feel so personal, cruel, and unfixable? Why do strangers online behave like enemies? Why do family dinners end in muteness? Why are people not just disagreeing, but actively despising each other? And why, precisely, do we keep clicking on things that make us miserable? It's the political version of watching a train wreck in slow motion, except the train wreck is your Thanksgiving dinner. And the passengers, they're your immediate family. Now, today we're going to trace that line from, neural to social, right? I mean, we're going to look at that psychological wiring that makes us pick sides, right? The personality fingerprints beneath the party labels, the structural accelerants, the leaders and platforms that turbocharge this division, and the experimental research that actually offers a way out. Because as we know, science beats rhetoric every time. Every time. Now, this isn't going to be some partisan rant, right? It's going to be a field guide because understanding doesn't mean surrendering. It means strategy. And let's be honest, we all need a little strategy. So let's start where the anger usually starts, right? With the rise of effective polarization, the fact that the two major political camps increasingly hate each other, not just disagree. That's not a vibe check. It's measurable and it's real. Now, decades of political science have shown that Americans' feelings towards out party members have hardened into something like automatic hostility. The kind of visceral reactions once reserved for rival sports teams or your most hated enemy. These are now being aimed at your neighbor, Americans. Come on. What happened? The difference is when your sports team loses, you don't automatically assume they're a threat to the republic, right? In politics, right? That's just the baseline. This isn't small. It is structural, my people. So what about the rhetoric of hate and identity? I talked a little bit about identity and rhetoric on our episode of transgender lives and sort of how that affects them. But what about politics? Why? Why is there so much rhetoric and hate around politics? Well, one layer is identity, right? Politics has become an identity marker. When your political label becomes a badge of who you are, disagreeing with someone feels less like a debate and more like an existential threat. This is why the rhetoric has devolved past policy disagreements, right? Things like abortion and whether or not drugs should be legalized, this type of stuff, gay marriage, all of these things that they used to just disagree with. And, it wasn't always polite, but I mean, let's be honest. We no longer say things like, I disagree with your tax plan. We say, they are actively trying to destroy the nuclear family, the free market, God, dogs. I mean, everything good. Think about the casual cruelty we now accept. We have prominent figures publicly referring to political opponents as vermin or suggesting people should drink bleach because they took a different stance on a public health issue. I mean, on social media, every freaking argument ends with someone being called a sheep, a communist, a fascist, a cuck. I mean, these terms are so overused, they've lost all meaning. Yet they still carry the emotional sting of a death sentence. It's a bizarre rhetorical inflation where calling someone a simple idiot no longer cuts it. You have to accuse them of plotting world domination just to get a like. I mean, the result, it slights feel like little betrayals, and persuasion turns into proselytizing. Now, politics can often be seen as the digital incinerator, but psychology alone does not explain the shockwave of the last 20 years in the political spectrum. For that, we have to look at institutions and technology. Social media. It didn't create polarization so much as it amplified and monetized it. I mean, think of all these morons on there selling you drums of oatmeal because here comes the end of the world. I mean, like, my goodness, it's all being monetized. I mean, we've got people from the left and the right, and they're screaming at each other, and it's all about making money for them, baby. Don't be fooled. On social platforms, I mean, surprising and novel information, even falsehoods, right? These things tend to spread further and faster than actual facts. This combination creates this storm, right? This perfect storm where you add all of that to the rhetoric of these polarizing leaders who benefit from zero-sum framing, by the way, and the scene even gets uglier. The incentives are clear. Be outrageous. Get noticed, right? We saw the rise of political entrepreneurs who, instead of offering solutions, right, they offer pure, uncut outrage. Think of the tone-deaf statements that become instant, viral gold, right? The politician posting a picture of a $400 ice cream tub while dismissing concerns about inflation, or the figure who insists they're the champion of the working class from inside their multi-million-dollar vineyard, right? I mean, these aren't just gaffes. They are strategic signals of contempt, proving to their base that they are too powerful to care what the opposition thinks. Now, the dynamic is pretty simple if you know what to look for, right? When politics is about loyalty, right? You win by demonizing the other team. Now, over time, the cost of being generous with the outgroup rises, right? The reward of pure tribal signaling goes up. Why bother solving a problem when you can just point a finger and get 10,000 new followers? Am I right? No, you're not right. The world's crumbling. And then we've got the dark mechanics of persuasion, right? Let's slow down and look at the cognitive tools that make persuasion and deception effective in politics. Now, number one, motivated reasoning. People don't see facts neutrally. They evaluate evidence through the lens of whatever supports their identity. This is why presenting facts that contradict someone's political identity rarely changes minds. In fact, they often double down. Consider the sheer effort people put into defending the indefensible behavior of their own side. I mean, when a favorite leader is caught in an obvious lie or fabrication, the base doesn't abandon them. They engage in Olympic level gymnastics to rationalize it. They invent elaborate conspiracies about deep state plots, or, they shift the goalposts completely. Well, yes, he did say that, but the other side said something worse 3 years ago, Johnny. This is motivated reasoning in action, right? The motive isn't to find the truth, it's to defend the team identity. The outgroup isn't seen as merely wrong, but as inherently flawed, corrupt, evil. That justification allows us to casually toss out truly vile accusations, like suggesting the opposing party's entire platform is designed to molest children. These are not arguments. No one's trying to destroy Christmas. They are moral panic grenades thrown to ensure that no debate ever remains rational. Congratulations, you just gave them a fact, and in return, they're now 10% more certain you're the enemy. Frank Baumgartner, baby. All right, the hard part. Here's where political science, psychology, and real interventions need to converge into practical steps. right? I mean, this is usually the part where everyone expects me to have a single, magically federally funded therapy session for the entire country. But look, I don't have that. But researchers do have some actual strategies. So, first, we need structural media fixes, right? We need to change the incentives. Platforms need to reduce the attentional economy's reward for novelty outrage without destroying free expression. We need designed cross-cutting exposure, environments that bring people together under norms of listening, not shouting, right? I mean, experimental deliberative forums, moderated discussion groups, the local face-to-face civics labs, right? They show promise. They lower affective polarization when designed for empathy and equal voice. Throwing partisans in a room together and hoping for the best is how you get a shouting match. Structured dialogue is how you get a conversation, even a begrudging one. Now, second, we need to employ inoculation and pre-bunking. If a big reason misinformation spreads so fast is because it's novel and emotional, the psychological solution is to inoculate people. It's like a flu shot. Preemptively teach them the common tactics of deception and give them the mental tools to spot tropes. This is how we fight back against the simple, hateful slogans. By understanding that phrases like all X are Y are not a political analysis. They are simplistic tribal cheers designed to shut down thought. We need to teach the brain to look before it's assaulted. Look, the rest of the solution really points to focusing on moral reframing, right? Cross-cutting ties, institutional reform, right? And critical thinking. It's time people started to think for themselves instead of dear leader thinking for them. The final point is simple but radical. To change our politics, to change the proximate psychology of our lives, we actually need to take the steps to make those changes in our lives. If you're serious about that, start with these 3 acts this week. Pause before you share something that angers you. Number 2, message someone who disagrees with you, right? And ask a genuine question, right? This doesn't have to be some kind of moment where you're trying to score points, right? Just try to understand the other person's perspective for a change, right? As bad as you might think it is. And number 3, learn one manipulation trope: scapegoating, right? False balance, emotional framing, right? Explain it to someone else. That last bit, teaching, is the fastest way to inoculate yourself, right? We can stop being terrified of our politics. We can stop treating opponents as enemies. It starts not with more outrage, but with more curiosity, more humility, and a willingness to build relationships and rebuild relationships, one conversation at a time. I'm Mike. This is Planting Thoughts. And if this episode landed, right, tell someone, especially someone who disagrees with you or me. That's probably a lot of people. And if this one hit a nerve, hit that like, hit that subscribe, leave a comment, right? And then sit with those nerves, sit with that nerve and ask where it came from. Until next time, plant something worth growing and stop the rhetoric. It ain't worth growing at all.